So, as the Democrats start, one of the things that actually a lot of people, especially older Democrats, they really don't get this, and especially people who are like they're moderate, relatively moderate, but they're solidly, they're solidly in the party. They're liberal, maybe not to a fault, but definitely liberal. Side with the even now and then they're like, yeah, I even agree with a lot of the progressives, or something. Well, so one of the things is that there's the entire end of like the progressive Democrats. Most of these people are Marxist, and there was somebody who was identified with the right, but one of the things he did is he's like, okay, so who was this man, Karl Marx? And he really did a lot of very good historical pieces. He was one of the first people who really introduced people to, okay, so who is your hero then? Who is this guy? And so Marx, of course, was a Jew hater, a rapist, born into money, and a total failure in almost every way of being an intellectual, recognized during his time as a great intellectual. And really, one of the most fascinating things about him is that he was exceedingly dirty. He was apparently like kind of physically repulsive, and that he refused to kind of bathe much. And so Marx really stunk, actually. He like physically smelled bad, and was so averse to bathing that Karl Marx was frequently plagued with boils, and he blamed the capitalists for his boils rather than the fact he didn't like bathing. So Marx hated Jews. He raped his own slave. He and he was a stinker, and his whole, like, I think all of his children committed suicide or ended up in some kind of facility because they went out their minds. He was notoriously cruel to his wife. He was a nut job. And so he fits very much like what you see like with the Earth Day guy. The Earth Day guy, notoriously going, into these polemics about the capitalists and their assault on the environment, only to eventually become famous for Earth Day. But remember, what it is that because the liberals ignore the fact that he was a violent abuser who killed his girlfriend and hid her cadaver in a trunk in his closet. Then you look like into like a lot of these famous, like, ooh, he was a rock and roll hero of the 60s. A lot of these guys were drug addicted abusers of women, and notoriously so, and were into teenage girls, like, and openly. So it's really this thing people need to understand. The Marxists are actually just criminals and deviants that have figured out loosely kind of a philosophy that justifies their deviant, horrible behavior toward people who are weaker than them. And they're manipulators, and a lot of people, a lot of women who've been with like psychopathic, manipulative men, don't these men usually have some big cause, or they got a problem with something in society, and then people don't understand, and blah blah blah. So it's just a lot of what's happening in the Democratic Party is they're becoming criminal scumbags. And the beautiful part is they don't really get that what that kind of gangsterish way of thinking will produce for them. And it's going to produce for them a party that will end up all going after each other in the long run. Because there's going to be areas of the country that they're going to have legitimate problems dealing with these policies. dealing with the immigration policies, dealing with what's now coming, food policies and the growth of food and the distribution of it, the changing of a wide variety of standards of tools that we use and devices we use, and it's going to be ruinous. And so I just want to make sure people know ahead of time. I want to make sure that I'm one of these people that I'm like, not so much, haha, I told you so, but really the idea of you should know your party that AOC is never going to starve. AOC is not going to starve. Rat Skin is not going to starve. None of those people are going to starve. You're going to starve. So you just remember that. And the old women, they're going to suffer. Not AOC. Not the professors at your university. No. They'll be fine. They're going to be okay. So just keep it in mind. Just want to make sure you know ahead of time. So that you can't say, oh, the Nationals, they didn't even say anything. They didn't know what was coming. Well, yeah, we do. That's why the future belongs to those who are prepared.